It's all about just being conscious. I knew it inherently, like in my head, like that's the truth. Like you can do anything. It could be seen as bad or good, but as long as it's conscious and you know why you're doing it, then it'll contribute to your life. I was still figuring that out, and I believe I'm still figuring that out today. I think that's just a lifelong thing. I think I'm still productive because I'm conscious of the fact that I'm not being productive. Maybe I'm this day or this specific time, I'm just gonna throw it all to the side. I'm gonna go drink, or I'm gonna hang out with my girlfriend, or I'm gonna go hang out with my friends, or I'm just gonna go dance. I'm just not gonna care what happens. And the fact that I do that brings me more meaningful relationships, which then meaningful connections, meaningful everything, which will then fuel my passion for everything else. Welcome back, everybody, to the Lucid Living Podcast, where we're having spiritual conversations around healing and growing spiritually. Today, I have a special guest, Rafi. He actually connected with me through Instagram. He wanted to ask me a few questions, and I said, why don't we just hop on Zoom and get a podcast going? He is a young spiritual seeker that is trying to make sense of this world and who is on the journey to the true self with a strong Zen Buddhist influence, and he's interested in just learning more, just like I am too. So welcome, Rafi. Thank you for joining us today. And
I'm happy that you agreed to the conversations.
Of course, I'm always looking forward to it. You know, I'm always down to having spiritual conversations, whatever. So I appreciate you also coming on, just, you know, being willing to put yourself out there like that. So congratulate you on that for sure. Yeah,
you're the first one I've ever tried to connect with online.
Oh, really?
I've watched many people, and it was just, did I text you yesterday? No, 2 days ago, right? Exactly 2 days ago. I don't know, I just found your channel.
Right.
You didn't have that many subscribers, and I just felt like, okay, he's a young person, and you seem like really, really well read. It's crazy. I haven't, you just seem to be someone who has, that's why my first question is going to be basically how do you integrate all this knowledge? I mean, because you seem like somebody who's really into books, and as I said, you seem to be somebody who's like really well read. I mean, I haven't met anybody your age. I mean, even most people I watch on YouTube who are a lot older don't seem to have such a wide grasp and such a deep dive into spirituality. And I mean, some things you're saying are more on the esoteric sides. Basically, my first question would be, how do you integrate all this knowledge you have into your day-to-day life? How does it look like, the integration? How do you not get overwhelmed? How do you basically not paralyzed by all this knowledge in the back of your head? You know, I mean, I'm sure you're trying to get many things right.
Yeah.
So how do you, basically live with all this new knowledge?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you first for the compliment. That's actually I don't get to hear that a lot, but that's pretty good hearing it from you. And I appreciate you, taking on, having that courage to ask people online. I know, at least for me, it was pretty hard in the beginning to like do something like that. So, so how do I integrate it? I integrate it through, it's a process, since the beginning, I'm getting all these spiritual concepts and I'm trying to basically apply them to everything. That's how I integrate it. So, when I was in school, that's kind of how it started in college. And the thing for me was, how can I make because I understood, because I was studying a little bit of, just neuroscience, psychology, just so I could understand how the brain learned, how the brain captured information and integrated it. And it's actually not as linear as one would think. It's very holistic. We learn in a very holistic manner. People who want to memorize things, what they do is they try to connect that with something they already have in their brain, like a memory or an associated meaning, and then they're able to tell a story. And so that's like kind of like a hack I learned in college when I was taking tests. That's what I would do to memorize things. And so I kind of piggybacked off of that, and I started to see spirituality in everything. And that's kind of why why I'm so broad, in the sense that I don't focus on one specific thing, like just meditation or just shadow work, because I just see spirituality in everything, and everything teaches me. So one of the ways I did it was just constantly, reflection, a lot of reflection, because reflection led me to associate a different meaning to things, and it also allowed me to connect them. So like my relationships were very pushed away from for a long time because I didn't know how to connect with people in that sense. You know, it was mostly
romantic or also friendships?
Both, but more strongly my like romantic also because you know it's mostly because I myself I have a strong I have a weakness when it comes to relationships. I guess it was a fear of, you know, not feeling like I could connect with people on spiritual like concepts, because it is very hard to be in a place where I'm at, where, you know, I'm looking very deeply into things and I'm very introspective, and then trying to connect with people in that same space, like bringing people to where I'm at. I thought that's what I thought that's what I wanted, you know, or I thought that's how it should have been. And so so then my struggle would be was which I'm barely right now being able to solve, which is, you know, allowing myself to not be so pressured, having my life be one specific way. You know, I don't, you know, I'm not like a guru, or I'm not like a teacher in my life. I let myself play the roles that I have to play for people sometimes. And although, you know, when you awaken, you kind of hate all of the roles. You hate all of the you know, the matrix basically. But I understand now that the matrix is kind of just what we build off from. So if people need a friend, then I'll be a friend. But at the same time, I have to be a friend in my own self, you know, like a friend in the sense that what would I need as a friend? You know what I mean? Or it's all about service. So integration is very easy. It becomes very easy once you start asking, how can you serve the world? Right? Because then like you are the actual manifestation of everything that you've learned and all of the skills that you've developed. So most often people struggle because they keep asking how the world can serve them, you know? You know, how can people get into my world? How can people get into my space? Versus them saying, how can I get into other people's spaces and actually have them feel good, you know, and, you know, bring a light into their lives. So is that kind of, you know, does that sound, because I know maybe you were asking in terms of like routines and stuff, and I could talk about that also.
Not really just routines, but more in the sense of, because when I started out, I think in that sense we're similar, because I was also more kind of the nerdy kid. I remember like at age 15, especially, I just hated school. I didn't fit in. I was reading philosophical texts, heavy ones, especially asking the big questions, trying to really, I mean, at that age, I think you have a different drive. Just, you have like a lot more serious take on these things. You know, you feel like, oh my God, this is so important. Why isn't anyone else asking these questions? Even older people, you know, I hung out with. And that's why I didn't really fit in. I just didn't have any plane to connect with anyone else, because basically there was something that was just almost my entire being, like just being taken up by these big questions, by philosophy, by and over time, and I think just like you, I dove deep into those things, and I've watched a lot, read a lot, and after a while I noticed that there's all this kinds of information. I think you are doing it in a better way than I did back then, that you're actually trying to, I guess it seems like take a break, think about these things actually, and try to integrate them. For me, it was more like, maybe it was also a kind of binge eating, if you want to, especially on basically on spiritual information. And my question would rather be, how do you, because there's a difference between like knowing something and then actually being aware of it. And actually being aware of something takes so much time. It can be like a little thing you read somewhere, which is maybe a higher truth or something. But actually getting a grasp on it in a sense that your body, it's like integrated in your body, this understanding, you know, that's actually part of your consciousness. You don't have to think about it anymore. There's like a huge difference. That's why I'm asking, how do you integrate all those things? Or is it are still most things on the intellectual level for you?
Oh no, a lot of the things that I don't speak on things that I haven't embodied or integrated. So, you know, or if I do, then I let people know I'm still learning this. And so I understand, because I was in the place where I would be in that philosophical realm for a long time, and then it was very, it was a very mental thing. And then but it wasn't practical. It wasn't practical in the sense that we can ask these big questions, but at the same time, what are you going to do about it? So maybe there's a truth of, we are, multi-dimensional beings, right? We're not restricted by matter. Our mind is a lot more powerful than we think. We can be there in that space of, thinking philosophically and be in awe, but then the awe goes away after a while because you don't know, you don't know how to integrate it. And what I did was I would question, okay, so if I look at my life and if I'm infinite, then what would it mean for me to live an infinite life? What would it mean for me to be an infinite person, like limitless, right? And that's when you really start to create a new you, right? You have to really, it's all about working on yourself. So, in every single aspect of my life, I asked myself, what would this look like if it was at 100%? What would this look like if it was fulfilling? And everything, that's how I applied it, my life, and like applied my philosophy into everything. So then I would start to explore and I would explore the ideas in the sense of the ideal. Realism to me, me being realistic, that doesn't exist. I'm not realistic, but at the same time, it's a paradox because being realistic is everybody's realistic in their own way. It's all arbitrary. If we get down to the metaphysics, life is relative for everybody. And at the same time, we live in a society where everything's supposed to be realistic. So, for me, I was having a conversation with a friend, and this is what, this would be another example, like where I kind of applied it. He was talking to me, cause I'm not a big fan of people just hooking up with others. Right. And so, I had my friend, he just, got over a breakup and he started hooking up with somebody else. Like, and I was talking to him, I was like, you don't have to do that. And, you're just lying to yourself. Right. And he was like, no, I'm just being realistic. People there, I'm not going to find the perfect person for myself, or I'm not like, there's no sense in me investing my time and energy into somebody. I'm just not in that place right now. I'm being realistic. And I was saying, well, I could be realistic in saying that you don't have to be a slave to your animalistic instincts. And bam, that was like, for him, it just, it hit because, realistically, what we were talking about was, okay, I have these desires. I'm attracted to women. I'm just a guy. I'm young. I have high testosterone levels. Like, what am I supposed to do with all of this? And I'm just being realistic. I'm just gonna sleep with a bunch of girls and not be emotionally attached. And in my head, I was like, that's a lie. Realism, like, a lot of guys, a lot of social media right now is talking about that. Like, you're young, go have your fun, blah blah. But in my head, I'm just hearing, but we're not just sex. We're not just sexual beings. That's a limit. That's a limited perspective in the sense that we are the truth. The truth of philosophical truth is that we are multidimensional beings capable of consciously expressing ourselves the way we choose to do so. Right. So, so then I'm being realistic in the sense that, you're not just that. You can choose to be something else, and you're choosing to not do so right now. So, you know what I mean? So that's hopefully that's a good example for you to see how I've integrated it. Because it's almost like my way of being is all about how can I push and expand on the current reality? How can I stretch reality into this more freeing, more understanding, more conscious thing? You know what I mean? So then that's kind of the it's an attitude. It's more of an attitude than a way of than just a philosophy and a concept. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hope so. It should be. Otherwise, there's not much point to it, I guess. Then otherwise, you could just as well read some sci-fi novels, or and you would get probably more out of it. Because that's what I also wanted to ask you after a conversation, because you seem to be really keen on. I think like I feel like with you, you have many points. You got them right. For example, the point of actually embodying things, integrating them, and also I just forgot which one I wanted to say. There's another one. But yeah, this is like so important that you have this approach to spirituality, and because at the end of the day, it's nothing else than life itself. It's nothing else than relationships we have. It's every moment, and sometimes people have like this disconnection between spirituality and like everyday life. Like every moment is spirituality. It's your relationship to everything.
Right.
Whether it's, I don't know, whether it's this flying around, or your mother, or school, or whatever it is. I mean, and this is something you really have grasped, and this is really important, I think. And one point you were making, what I think really is important, is you were talking about hooking up, and that the guy, your friend, kind of adopted this view on women and on sexuality and dating. And this is a huge point that I've noticed with myself too. Not this one, but on a more general level, on views and values. And I'm sure you have also this issue now that your perspective has changed so much, I guess, and is in stark contrast, I guess, to most people around you. That you're that I don't know about you, if you've like distanced yourself from many people, because that's something I've noticed. And it's something also I really like about you, that you're thinking for yourself and that you're really asking, is this the only way to see life? Or is this the right way to see life? Isn't there another way, basically? Like all can start with this question. Isn't there another way to living life and seeing things?
Yeah.
So how do you, I mean, because now I'm sure you have very different views and values from most people. And do you sometimes, for example, I myself feel like distancing myself more and more from, not from my friends, but from just like random parties and all those kinds of things, those random social gatherings, because I feel like they have an impact, because there's always this underlying, every time somebody talks, there are underlying values and views that are contained within his messages, which maybe he isn't aware of, but I just feel so different to those people, especially in views and values, and I don't want to always ending up in a kind of value battle. So how has that changed for you? Being
yeah. So basically, how do I navigate through the social landscape where there's conflicting values, and but there's also relational attachments, where you're maybe you have a friend and you guys don't see the world the same way, for example. Is that kind of where you're going?
Just generally, how is your experience in the social world changed, and how do you go about it? Like, have you disconnected from some friends? Yeah, just on a general level.
Yeah. So this is actually, if you had asked me this a month ago, I would have given you a completely different answer. And yeah, and so that's the funny thing, that because I've been working on that for a while right now, and I think I've hit a stride. I've been feeling myself be so much happier, having much more fulfilling relationships because of
nice
it.
To hear.
Yeah. So the word I came from was, I used to think that I have to push people away if they didn't have the same values as I did, because why would I hang out with somebody who doesn't see the world the same way as I do? But at the same time, I also had this conflict where I was like, but you have so much potential, like we all have so much potential. And I would often be the guy that'd be like, but you could do better, especially with my male friends. I'll be like, there's a lot more you can do, don't sell yourself short.
This is such a huge one.
Yeah. It's like
the potential people have, they aren't aware of it, like even dimly aware of their potential everybody has. That's it. Keep on.
Yeah. And then you get frustrated, because then, maybe people don't want to hear that, it's because then for me, I was speaking from a place, and there's something that I learned recently, that at one point it became kind of like self-isolating, I was becoming a victim. Like I was playing the victim, because I'd be saying, well, people don't understand me. people don't see where I'm coming from. I just want to help the world. People don't like want to see that. And like I'm alone and I'm just going to go to a place where people actually do see me, because there are people and you do find people. Like my experience has been that when you put yourself out there, you find like-minded individuals. And I've been putting myself out there for a while now. But at the same time, I had this conflict where my people, my family, my friends in the physical world, weren't there with me. But we would connect on different things, So just recently, I recognized, and this was something that I had with my own like relationship with my girlfriend, was sometimes you just the pressure came from, and this is where it really was. The pressure came from having so much like ambition and so much drive, but also being impatient and feeling like I needed to be where I wanted to be right now. Like I needed. Does that make sense? Sorry.
Impatient. Yeah, impatient is a big one. Yeah.
Impatient. Yeah. Yeah. So like, I had this plan in my head, I'm going to get married at 25. I'm going to have kids, at 30, I'm going to be, I'm going to have this big business and be helping so many people along the way, be so advanced in my spirituality. And I was trying I didn't feel like I was there, and I would look around me and I noticed, yes, like people aren't there where I would want for them to be. Like people, like I'd get stressed out because, I wanted a community of tight knit individuals that were all connected to their spiritual truth. And I was working towards that, and I was slowly growing it. But then like I wouldn't turn off that that drive when it came to my close friends and family. So then I'd look at them and I'd be like, oh, but they're not like in the same wavelength as I am. So I'm going to push them away, because I'm frustrated because they're not where I want them to be. And that has been a big issue in my life that I just feel like I've overcome. So the mindset now has been, you have to enjoy your life, at whatever point you're at, you're there because, you need to be there. Like, and I'm 23, and to be where I want to be, like, there is no timeline. There is no, all of that is just relative. Like I said, going back, the impatience comes from this belief of you need to be there now, or because I got to the point now where I'm like, I look at my life now. This is kind of like the practical way of doing it, which is I sat down and I asked myself, how does my life have to look like right now for me to enjoy it and die feeling okay with me having never accomplished what I wanted? So once that happened, I sat down and I thought, well, it looked like me, dancing a little more, me talking to my friends a little more, me sitting down with the people that are close to me, even though they're not in the same wavelength or same reality as I am. Like me letting go of this idea that people have to be moving all the time because that's the timeline that I put on them, So and it's okay though, it's okay because I have that timeline on myself. That same pressure that I put on myself, I'm so hard on myself, that'll be hard on others too. And I didn't know how to, filter or like align every single aspect of my life to where they all felt like they worked together. All I wanted was for every aspect of my life to align into one and go into this one direction. And that's a very masculine approach to life. But then there's also the feminine approach, which is going with the flow and just feeling things out as they go, So I'm learning that from my girlfriend because she's very go with the flow. She does everything off like feeling, and she does everything off of like, so she has her fun. She's young, and I'm very strict. I'm very disciplined. And that's where all of this comes from, that discipline.
It's a great combination.
But the combination is that's what I needed. And I need to embody that. You know what I mean?
Yes, I'm saying it's great for your relationship. So you can both learn something from each other. It's a really great match in that sense.
It is. And I thought it wasn't, for a long time, I thought, dang, like, she needs to be in my lane, she needs to be disciplined. She needs to be all this. But that's the issue. That's why I mentioned, like, that's why I had so many struggles in relationships. But does that help?
Yeah, I'm also like taking notes while you're talking, and because there are like different topics come up, and I do think that like disconnecting that's something I haven't done. I haven't disconnected from any friends because they
Mm-hmm.
aren't spiritually interested, and because I haven't met many people in real life who are either open to spirituality or
Mm-hmm.
like somewhat into it. I mean, finding someone who's really into spirituality, who's really nerdy about it, it's not easy. Like you really have to go to those places. And usually at those places I went to, those meditation centers,
Mm-hmm.
average age was probably, I don't know, like 35 or something and up.
Yeah.
So there weren't many 20-year-olds. And so in that sense, and from you, I can also, and this reminds me of Sam. He is on this Waking Up app. I don't know if you know it.
Of
Sam Harris.
the
Yeah, and
song.
there's a meditation app by
Oh,
Sam
okay.
Harris.
Oh, by Sam Harris. Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Um.
sometimes they're like those moments. They're called just mini messages. There's
Mhm.
one message that is, I think that fits in very well to this. He says there are two ways of being with other people. One way is we can want something from them, or we can just be with them without wanting anything. I think this fits in very well also with your friends. That's something I
Yeah.
do with my friends too. I mean, I have many friends who aren't into spirituality at all, and I don't care because there are different planes on which I can meet them, you know? Like
Right.
I don't have like you don't have to bring spirituality into it. I mean, we can talk about, I don't know. I mean, there's a reason why you're friends, you know, apart from spirituality, so you can connect on those things. And yeah, and everybody's at different points. That's also something one has to really understand, that everybody's at their own point, at their own pace. And I think a great thing about, because for example, I find your views also very inspiring, and I can really tell that you're very disciplined, and that's also something that's very inspiring. And
Thank you.
I think you just being yourself and improving, and I mean, they're going to see how you're improving, you know, the way you react, the way you see life, that you become more chill and whatever, all those things. I mean, they're
Hmm.
going to see it, you know, you don't even have to tell them. And if
Right.
somebody, let's say, struggling with something, with discipline, and is like, hey, I've got this buddy who's really good at this, so they're going to go up to you and ask you. Because
Yeah.
there's this other thing, like, you don't help anyone who hasn't asked for help, you know.
Right. Right.
Like, don't push it onto them.
Right.
There's no point, because somebody has to be open to it. I mean, it's just like you meet somebody who's not open to spirituality, there's no point in telling him, he's not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
And it's the same with friends. I mean,
Yeah.
I have friends, they have nothing to do with spirituality at all,
Right.
but still I can enjoy their company and just be with them, like by just not wanting anything from them, you know, just, yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing I wonder is, because you have such high goals in your life,
Hmm.
it does sound a bit like, do you sometimes feel like it's a bit of like your ego projection?
What do you mean?
Like, I mean, everybody has like an ideal self
Right.
and how they would want to be, and that's a point we are like heading to, and I mean, life doesn't go the way you want to, and it's great that you have life planned out and you have goals and a vision and all those things, but don't you sometimes take a step back and ask yourself, aren't some of those things, or maybe the level at which I want to achieve those things, projections of my ego that
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. I think that the fuel, it's like writing a story, and
Mhm.
like, you got the ink and you got the pen, and like the ink is my heart's desire, and that's my truth. Like that's what drives everything that I do. It's the passion, but then the way I format it and structure it is my ego. So then, sometimes and the ego is good though, right? Like I'm pretty sure the ego is good in the sense that it gives your life structure and it gives a story. But at the same time, you don't have to write it down the way, you don't always have to structure it a specific way. And sometimes, there's times where there is no structure and I just write and it's free written, and it comes out to be a lot better than I thought I wanted it to be, or than how I first thought I wanted it to be. And yeah, and I think that the for sure the ego projection, it comes from, it's more so seen in the sense that I'm projecting my ego when I say that I'm not, like, I'm not there yet. Like I'm no, nobody else is there yet, or I need to be there faster, or I need to put in more work, because I could work for hours every day, but then that would be at the cost of my relationships, right? So
which you noticed are the most important things in life.
which are the most important things. Yeah, which they are. and I didn't think so. I thought maybe I could get there really quick, and I can, I can do that. But at the same time, I was thinking that I could get there really quick, and then go and see them. And that's what a lot of people do. And it's not just in business; it's also in not it's not just in spirituality; it's also in business and other things, getting money. Because I see it with my friends. Sometimes my friends are struggling because they're just trying to make money really quick. They're just trying to pay bills and get to that desired goal. And then I see them, I'm like, and so for example, one example is good. I had a friend who same friend. We're pretty close, so if you hear me talking, you already know who you are. But he actually, he had family issues, and he's trying to help out his parents and his family, and his life is very much revolves around money. If only I had money, I could solve these problems. I could help my mom out. I could help my sister out. And I told him, what if you could just, they don't need you financially, maybe they just need you emotionally. And so how can you serve them in an emotional manner? Maybe you don't have the money, but maybe you can serve them better if you just became a more emotionally intelligent person and you help them be okay with their feelings and their struggles. And, funny, I was telling him that while I was, I wasn't, later on, I would do the same thing, but it was just with my business instead of just trying to chase money. So that's the thing. Like, we, like, I guess I don't know, I kind of got lost. I kind of went on that, but there's a lot that you can offer to people right now. And just because they're not receiving, what you thought they needed, doesn't mean that you're not progressing as an individual. So, because I'm all about progress, I'm all about growth. And
yeah, I've noticed.
yeah, very much about growth and progress.
Pushing this message.
Yeah, that's basically it. I don't know. Does that make sense? I know I kind of veered off a little bit, but it was a bit off the whole ego thing. Did you want me to expand on a specific point?
No, I just want to add one more thing, and I think this is something that one keeps on trying to. I mean, living life is probably the most difficult art form, I guess, because you always have to walk on this the edge of the knife, like on knife's edge. And I guess, because the thing is, I see, because on one side, you have to be aware that you never arrive. I mean, because life never stops and you never stop growing. And at the same time, of course, you have to look at, I mean, because at the same time, there are many things you can improve and grow at. But I guess that's the skill and difficult part, that you allow yourself to chill wherever you are, because it's exactly okay that you are at this place, and at the same time not get, I don't know, lethargic or lazy and not do anything anymore, and start and get stuck at a place, or which is also not the end of the world if you get stuck. Maybe that's your lesson you need. You never know. How did you sometimes forget this in your very ambitious approach and way of living?
Well, for me, it was this thing of, I know I'm not gonna get to where I want to get to, because I'm just on a mission, like I'm gonna die, and I'm just gonna, and then people are gonna follow. My mission is forever. So subconsciously I understood that I'm not gonna get where I want to get to. But at the same time, I thought that I wanted to get as much done as I could before I left. And then, and I wanted to feel like I was there, kind of. And so I did get lost, because it was more so, I had everything else in place. Like, everything else was kind of, it was a lot of ideas of what I thought success would look like. That's really what it is. I would judge things based off this idea of success of, for me, YouTube count, YouTube subscribers. It was first that, I want to hit 1 million, or I want to hit 100K, or, I want to get monetized. I want to, it started with that. And then it also would move into, once I got my relationship, I was like, okay, I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want to have, I want to have a spiritual, like a healer as a partner, or something like that. Or I want to have a business partner. And then, and so I would paint this picture, and I'd get attached to the picture. Yeah. And then when speaking about embodied truth, or embodied, or like your attitude, my attitude would shift, because I was coming from a place where I was attached to that picture, and I wanted the how. I didn't want the why. I wanted the how. So then that pressured everything. That messed with everything. So then even though I was attuned to the why, you know, I would always use the why as my drive, but at the same time, my actual main the decision which I based all my things from was more from the how. And I think that's really where what a lot of people struggle with too. So right now, you know, a lot of things are working out for me because I let go of the how. And it really comes from trusting the universe. You know, it really comes from trusting, like, you know, I have good intentions, and I love myself and I love my life. And
that's a great place to be.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And you know what also? You mentioned something about, you know, sometimes it's cool, you just want to chill. Like, you know, maybe I'm just gonna go relax, watch some Netflix or something. And for me, I think it's all about just being conscious. And that's something that I was trying to, like, I knew it inherently, like in my head, like that's the truth. Like you can do anything, you know, it could be seen as bad or good, but as long as it's conscious and you know why you're doing it, then it'll contribute to your life. I was still figuring that out, and I believe I'm still figuring that out today. I think that's just a lifelong thing. But you know, like I think I'm still productive because I'm conscious of the fact that I'm not being productive. Maybe I'm this day or this specific time, I'm just gonna, you know, throw it all to the side. You know, gonna go drink, or I'm gonna hang out with my girlfriend, or I'm gonna go hang out with my friends, or I'm just gonna go dance, and I'm just not gonna care what happens. And the fact that I do that brings me more meaningful relationships, which then or meaningful connections, meaningful everything, which will then fuel my passion for everything else.
so you were basically in the grip of productivity of this was this the case? And now you were able to step back and put in more chill time you didn't have to spend productively, and this has improved all other areas of your life.
Yeah, because I actually recorded a little. This is funny because I actually recorded myself in my car because I drive for Uber Eats, and I got so much time just doing that, so I was just recording myself, and I sometimes record my insights on there. And I literally talked about this yesterday in my car, where I was thinking that productivity is also relative, and I'm productive in the sense, I don't know how people define productivity. I don't even know how I would define it, but just progressing, right? Just progressing in my head. And yeah, I was in the grips of like productivity is supposed to look like this, you know? And I never really questioned what productivity would look like for me. So I would always have like these routines, and I would always have like this schedule. And I was always like planning everything out by the hour. And then recently I kind of let that go, and now I'm coming back to it, but with a different perspective, in the sense that that, you know, things are going to come up, and as long as I'm hitting, you know, I'm getting my basic needs met, getting my survival needs, I'm not neglecting, you know, my bills, the physical world, the earthly world. As long as I get that done, everything else is all on me. Like, me building this business is a choice. Me going hanging out with my friends is a choice. Me going to see my family is a choice. All of that is a choice. And the fact that I know that it's a choice makes it 10 times more meaningful, you know, because now I'm living a life that I enjoy, because I don't feel restricted by a necessity of I need to be this specific person to somebody, or I need to be outputting this much of things in for my business. Like, now it's like, no, I want to do that, and I like doing that. And if it gets too much, then I'll just switch it up.
Yes, sometimes we forget that most of the things we are doing, we don't have to do those.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes they just get kind of a routine, and we just, yeah, as you said, and then after a while, you just take a step back, and you're like, wait a sec. I mean, I don't have to do those things that are like weighing me down, or maybe seeing them the other way, to be grateful, to be able to get the opportunity to do those things.
Right.
That's something sometimes a view I adopt on issues that I don't really want to do. But I'm like, okay, I get to do this. I get to have this kind of problem, you know, not all the other problems that so many other people on this planet have. And kind of, seeing it from the point of gratitude. And
I've,
one thing,
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna add. A lot of the lessons I've learned right now have been from actually like a business guy, Gary Vee. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No, I don't watch any business stuff.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, the reason
Gary
why
Vee,
is
okay.
yeah, he really talked about all of this, and I kind of it was an idea in the works that I would always carry in my head, but he's actually living it, and he's talking from that space of like life is people talk about balance in the sense of okay, like today 50% business, 20% relationships, 20% health and stuff, and then we talk about the wheel of life, and he was talking about balance is just a life thing. It's not a daily, weekly, monthly, or even yearly thing. It's a life thing. So if you have to today, because I have so many interests, I love writing. I want to get more of my writing out there, but I can't right now because I'm trying to build this machine that I'm building right here with which has to do with video. And I also love dancing. I love performing. I love my family. And I put it into this thing where it's just life, like I would also want to be a spiritual healer, like develop my psychic abilities and all of those things. And I have done that a little bit. Everything has been a little bit, and my main focus is my business right now. And I feel bad. I would feel bad because I think I just want to do it all right now. Is there any way
Same,
I
I
can
can
fit it into
relate.
my, huh?
I can so relate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So hopefully this is helpful to you because I would try to do it all in one day. I'd be like, okay, so if I want to do it, I got to get the system in place because I'm all about productivity, right? So I know I've read all the books, Charles Duhigg, creating systems versus goals, all those things. And then I would think about, okay, so the system would be, so today I'm gonna do 10 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of reading. I'm gonna go work for like 7 hours. I'm gonna sit with my girlfriend for like 2 hours. I'm gonna talk to my friends for like an hour. And I would do that. And I would try to do that every day. And then now I'm just like, screw it. Like I'm gonna do what I think I need right now. So I'm gonna wake up. Okay, I'm a little foggy. I'm gonna meditate. And then at this time I'm gonna start working. And then after this time, then I'll figure it out. It's kind of, it's in the works. But then the reason I'm like that though is because I would always be so pressured. Like I'm a writer, so I want to write, or I'm a dancer, so I need to go perform. And so how am I going to fit this all into my monthly calendar? Like how is this going to look? Because I want to get to that goal at the end of the day.
Mhm.
But then now I'm thinking it's like, well, I don't have to be a dancer, complete performer right now because I am in a team. I'm in a team, and I would love to grow on that too. But right now, my love and my heart is mostly into my relationships and my business. And so, but that doesn't mean, and here's, and I want to continue on that, but that doesn't mean that I can't still work on it right now. So what I'm doing is I'm working on having my business be connected to all of these other things. So my friends who are also dancers, I'm going to create a podcast with them about dancing and spirituality. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
how, like, if when you let go of, I have to do this, in terms of a monthly thing, or I have to do this in terms of a specific phase in my life. When you let that go, then you open up to like, okay, so let's being honest with ourselves. Where does my heart want me to go right now? And then also my heart never leaves me. So because I'm not working on my writing right now, doesn't mean I'm not going to work on it in the future, in like 10 years, and then once I'm there, then I can expand on what I've already built, and and then and then I could also be a healer, maybe 20 years down the line, and just be like a really good, just a G, just a G at healing. Like I would love to be a beast, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
because
I
I
noticed
love
you
it.
like, yeah, you're extremely ambitious. It's very inspiring because I'm I'm trying to get my discipline installed, and
Hmm.
I'm more the kind of type of like your girlfriend is, more chill, more
Hmm.
spontaneous, more. Although I'm disciplined, there are some things I do daily, like meditating 1 to 2 or 3 hours per day. That's something I always do. It's
Oh,
just
it's
not negotiable.
hmm
But other things I'm free on. And but the same, I also like really like writing, and I want to improve it. And I am also into so many things, just like you are.
hmm
And it's just but for example, I've noticed with myself that when I structure my day like you did, like to the minute, something that I really noticed, like like after a couple of days that gets lost is aliveness. I just don't feel like I'm alive anymore. It just gets lost so fast, because sometimes in the evenings I've noticed, although I want to read in the evening 1 hour, 2 hours, oftentimes I just have like the urge to socialize, to meet up with my girlfriend, or meet up with some friends, or take a walk or something like that. And yeah, that's what I'm wondering about. Didn't that get lost too for you? Your aliveness, in a sense, maybe not totally. Yeah,
and not and and it even would bite me would also bite me back, because like my girlfriend wouldn't be happy, like she doesn't want some boring dude that's just always like meditating and reading and just like never wants to go out, never wants to eat out, because he's trying to save money for the business. And
you should become a monk.
and like if I'm a monk, I gotta be a monk, not just some dude in a relationship, so like and the funny thing is that I think I need that, because in my past I was I love drinking and dancing, and that's a big part of my community, of my like Mexicans love to drink and dance. And at one point I was celibate and I was sober and just like abstinent from drinking and everything, and I loved it and I learned a lot. But then at the same time, my family, I would lose out on my family. And now I just I don't drink crazy. It's more of a more mature perspective, but yeah, like that still lives in me. And everybody back in my parents in Mexico, they have a little village. Everybody knows me as this guy that just loves to have fun, super spontaneous, drinker. He's very extroverted, just a dancer, which is completely different than who I am here, and that's like a separate life. So I'm like, why can't I just be both? Why can't I just bring joy to people in that way too?
Yeah, trying to integrate all of those different aspects into your life. And also but that's I don't know if you have anybody who you can be all those kind of aspects with. I think those are like really special people who you can be, I don't know, the drinker type, the chill type maybe, and then also the disciplined, the very deep thinking guy. Do you know what I mean? Because oftentimes I think we have, as you said, like different compartments for different aspects of our being. And that's just what my experience has been like. And yeah.
What were you, sorry, I know you have an interesting point there, and I want to build off that, but you were saying that you don't have anybody that you can be all of that for. Was that what you said?
No, I do have one, but it's just two people and they're really close, but it hasn't been easy to find people like that where you can really show your different aspects. I mean, just like you, I guess, like most young people like to go out and socialize, go to bars, because oftentimes, for example, I've noticed that with people who are into philosophy, nerdy things, they aren't that social, they don't usually like to go to bars, or that's just what my experience has been like, or they're like a bit too nerdy, having someone who's a balanced person. I mean, this is what it's all about, right? To becoming a balanced person. I mean, we all have different kind of aspects. Some are heavier, some less so, and it's about like balancing this out and
yeah. I think that's the interesting thing though, where I know there's a lot of people that's kind of just a people thing where they like to limit themselves, which I've noticed. But at the same time, this is an interesting thing of like, you don't get boring when you're everything, right? When you have so many interests and so many things that you want to do. That it's like the complexity is what brings aliveness to life. And I think that the way to a very like fulfilling relationship, and this is kind of something I'm learning, where they're like, you want your partner to never know who you truly are. It's almost like there's always something you can do. There's always something more else to learn, because that's life and that's people in general. That's just, I just feel like you're never gonna get a person down. And I don't think people will ever get me down, in the sense, I'm just me. Like,
I don't think you will either ever get yourself down, because unless you're like, you're life is in constant flux, and you are life and you're also in constant flux.
Right.
And what most people unfortunately do is they hinder themselves. They just box themselves in, and that's why it's so important to stay free and open and keep on changing. And I mean, there's some hindrances to development,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a way to stagnate. But you're not that kind of person. You're just constantly going to. I mean, that's why you're continuously going to get to know yourself, and by doing new things, you're also exploring new sides you didn't know before.
Right.
Because you don't have an intellectual entrance to those sides. You get to know them by doing those things, by trying out new things, and you're like, oh, okay, I see. Didn't know that aspect of myself. And that's
Right.
the beauty of life, I guess. I mean, that's also something you can share with your partner. It's just the continuous getting to know each other. And the better you get to know yourself, the better of a manual you can give your partner. And the better and the deeper the relationship is going to become. And it's one of the beauties of life, isn't it?
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Infinite exploration.
It is. And it's all you, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's all you. And I think that's a beautiful truth right there, because you already have it down, you know, but I was just gonna say, like, you know, I love the idea, like I'm in a constant, like you said, flux, right? I'm in a relationship with life. We're all in a relationship with life. And she's showing you things every day. And she's giving you opportunities to learn more about what she has to offer to you.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the more you interact with her, you learn a little bit more about yourself. And so now you learn something new through this entity that we call life about yourself. And like, for example, like I wouldn't know how I'd be as a boyfriend if I wasn't a boyfriend. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
like
You can't intellectually find it out,
you can't.
only by experience.
Yeah. And those are the things that I feel are make it fun, you know? And that's why, like, you know, people, like for me, I never boxed myself in, and I would I would suggest something. I always tell people, you know, if, take up a new skill, be curious, stay curious, you know, because you never know.
I think the
So
older you become, the more important this becomes to really get out of your routines, because the people I see around myself and in society, it's just, and I can tell with myself as well, you just start becoming more fixed in your routines and your way of being in life. I think that's why you have to take an extra effort to counteract that stagnation, basically. Otherwise, life's going to become boring, and yeah, and you're going to lose aliveness, which I think is. I mean, everybody wants to feel alive and really, really feel alive, like become conscious of being alive.
mhm. Yeah. What do you think is and what do you think is people's, you know, greatest struggle when it comes to, like, I guess, knowing themselves?
That's something I've thought about a bit, and I wanted to write an article about it, like the hindrances to getting to know yourself and to developing. And I think the biggest one is not being honest with yourself, and compassion and lack of compassion. Like, when we were constantly deceiving ourselves, we were telling ourselves maybe, or putting things in a better light than they actually are, maybe just to have because everybody wants to feel good about themselves,
Right.
and I think this is probably the biggest hindrance to not be honest with yourself, and there's where compassion comes in. I mean, let's say if I did something wrong and you would start to criticize me in like an angry way,
Mhm.
I would block off. But if you were starting to do it in a very compassionate way, I would listen, of course. And it's the same with yourself. I think that's why it's so important to have a friendly relationship towards oneself and compassion, so that whenever something happens, you're like, okay, actually, I wanted to change this, but I didn't. And then you're like, okay, then you can enter in a real conversation with yourself. But if you know you're gonna be like harshly criticizing yourselves, you're not even gonna look at this thing, because you know that there's this part in you that's gonna criticize you for doing this. That's why you're like blocking it out from your consciousness, basically. Yeah, I would say those two things: honesty and compassion.
Yeah. That's really good. You're pretty well, very well thought out. And yeah, that's pretty good. I was really thinking about myself, like what would be, you know, what would define me, you know, and you know, I was thinking like in the future, you know, because I'm winning, you know, I'm winning in my life because I just love
Yeah, you are.
everything, you know, like I feel like I am, and if somebody wanted to be winning also, what I would say that helped me was, you know, I just never lied to myself, you know, or I just at least tried to never lie to myself. basically being honest. And I think that's the biggest issue today too. You know, people just lie a lot to themselves. And the way it looks like, because I really want this to be clear for people, is, you know, when you push that emotion away, or when you push that thought away, when you can't stand your internal world, you know, that's really kind of what people do. It's like, oh, I know I need to heal, but not right now. Or, you know, like, I know I'm angry, but nah, I'm not, I don't want to say anything, you know, all those things. Or even like, oh, I want to go out and do this thing, but nah, like, I'm not that person, you know, like that's how it's seen. That's how, and little by little you keep doing that, and then you end up being something that you don't even recognize. So yeah, I mean, that's something that I would say too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you're a writer then, right? You say you're writing an article. What do? You blog, or what do you do?
I'm doing it for myself so far until I've reached a level where I'm comfortable at, and just like you, I guess I have many different interests, and there's sometimes get in the way because I'm still at uni, and
Oh, your university?
Yeah, I'm still at uni, exactly, and
Okay.
that's why I'm looking forward to being done soon and actually just focusing on the things that matter. I mean, just like you, I think the books I read, I feel like they're so much more important than anything I've learned at uni or in school. Like, and that's why I kind of get annoyed almost by doing these things for uni and reading the things I have to do for uni, even if they're like important on a societal level. I just don't feel like they're really the things that matter.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm looking forward to when I'm finally done and can commit myself to the things I want to look more deeply into and think about, because that's something I haven't done enough. I think that's what you're doing often, actually reflecting on all the things that you've learned. Sometimes, for example, I just read those things or I watch them and like, okay, this was interesting, you can write them down, but it's important to go back and reflect and to really think about it because of impatience. Because I just want to know it all now.
Yeah.
You know, and instead of actually getting a better grasp on one little thing, I just consume too much. But that's something I'm working on right now, and that's improving. And you instantly see the improvement. Yeah, if you just take a break, the next day you just go over it, sit down in the park or whatever with a piece of paper and just think about it and how it and more importantly, how can you integrate it? How can you use this information actively in your life? I think that's the most important part, that it's not just some kind of theory floating around in your mind.
Yeah. And what are you studying for?
I'm doing computational linguistics, it's called. I don't know if you know about it.
Is that like programming?
Yeah, it's computer science and linguistics.
Science, yeah. Okay.
And it is cool, you know, it's not like it's uncool or stuff, but it's just, life is just too short. You know, there's just so many other things that are so much more important. I think you can relate to them most other things.
Yeah. I was actually in school for not computer science, but I was doing biomedical engineering. So I graduated with my psychology degree because that's when I realized I want to do that.
But that's a great degree too, because I feel like lots of psychologists and psychotherapists.
Yeah.
Spirituality, because that has to do with the mind.
Yeah. The thing, but I'm not. What was I going to say? I was going to say that. But I learned more from the books that I was reading than I did from the psychology courses too. Like I already knew what they were talking about. Like I would hardly go to class. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like from the spirituality books.
From the spirituality
books,
I would read a lot of psychology too. It's just, I think, you know, the mind is just when you put it into a university structure, it's very limiting because they only do what's scientifically can be measured, but a lot of the mind cannot be measured. You know what I mean? You can't measure the mind. So like, yeah, I was like already, you know, I could have graduated maybe a lot sooner if I had started with psychology as my first as my major, my first major. You know, I don't want to do therapy either. I don't want to be a therapist. At least right now, I think. And the reason I say that is because where you're at right now, what you're doing is synthesis. You know, we are synthesizers. You and I, we're looking at life, and this is what everybody is, you know, deep down. But we're looking at life and we're learning a lot. We're seeing the books. We're kind of cutting that learning curve in half or so much faster by reading other people's experiences. And through that, we kind of figure out what's the best one for us. And then we're putting that out into a content, whether it's written or video. And for you right now, it's
the best experience for you. What do you mean by that? You said what the best experience is for you. What do you mean by that?
What do I mean by that? I mean that what's the best combination of all of these lessons that you've learned? And then once you figure that out, that becomes your embodied state, your attitude, or your philosophy, or your way of operating through the world. And then that's very valuable. That's what people. That's what I'm doing, and that's how people help others. You know what I mean? Like that's why people write books. But then now you get your perspective, and then you can help other people. You know what I mean?
That's something also, another valuable thing about your channel, that I can tell with every video that you're really speaking from experience, how you've applied those things. Because oftentimes I feel like when you're starting out in spirituality, you don't know where to look. And oftentimes it's older people and they're already at a different stage in the developments. And with you, because you're a young person, I think many more people, I guess, can and will be able to relate, because you're showing it from a point which is not so far away from their point. You know, it's not such a huge step. It's not so, I don't know, they don't have to meditate for a couple of years to be able to get into this insight. You know, them being where they are is enough reference experience to understand, or to close the gap to what you're maybe giving advice on in your videos. That's at least how I felt like. And I think that's something that's missing, because I feel like you can get discouraged from putting out spiritual videos, because you know there's not much you really know after a couple of years compared to those giants that are putting out videos out there in the spiritual community. So I feel like you can get discouraged, but at the same time, there's some value to you sharing your little developments, because other people, it's easier for them to relate. That's at least my experience has been like. And as long as you're actually talking from experience and not just, I don't know, giving out random information you've read in some book, it's going to be very, very valuable to people, because they can also tell, okay, you're speaking from experience, and it also just feels like it makes sense. That's what I've noticed too. Like there's many of those things you read in the higher truth, they just touch something within you. You just feel like, yeah, this is true, you know, without having been there.
Yeah, I will say that I'm curious. I will say that, you know, you can. Something I've learned myself is that at least the way I make content now, it's kind of like as I go, I just put out what I've learned. But there's also like the bigger concepts I'm working on in the background. And also there's a lot of spiritual people. I don't know, like I've seen the people on social media and YouTube. Some of the people, they're just, it's not as relatable, you know, and I think that's the problem that a lot of people are facing, that, you know, people go into the spiritual community and they're like, what's all this talk about, you know, ascension and, you know, like meditating and awakening and,
exactly.
Yeah. Like people kind of get thrown off. And then there's also like this space where a lot of spiritual people are actually pretty disconnected from the physical world, you know, like there is no, I don't know, like they all live in their own bubble. You know what I mean? And
which is so wrong also. We should be taking spirituality into everyday life.
Right. And it's so weird. It's like the influencers and like, you know, bigger figures and stuff. It's kind of, for me at one point it got annoying, because I'd be like, I need something, like people are watching this and, you know, there's a lot of mental stuff, but can people feel it in their bodies? You know what I mean? Like, is that, like, for example, one simple thing, I'd be like, why aren't people working out? You know, like, why aren't people exercising and taking care of their bodies? You know, there's like, I don't know. I just feel like it's like a must, you know, if you're going to train your mind, you might as well train your body. And so that, you know, like if you like things like that, you know what I mean? So I appreciate you saying that. And that's kind of the goal that I'm at. You know, I just want to modernize spirituality. Spirituality should be everywhere. And the reason I think that is because when you start talking about spirituality, you start talking about who you are at your core. And people, I think that's the path to healing everything in this world, whether it be to heal, like solving all problems, because people who are self-actualized are doing what they were meant to do when they came into this earth, and nothing in nature is a mistake. So you came into this world for a reason, and you're a part of this system, and us as human beings, we can do a lot in terms of the evolution of this universe. And like when people just start letting go of that noise, just stop blocking that noise and connecting to who they are at the deep level, then spirituality will look like anything. Spirituality will look like you carving wood, or it will look like you meditating, or it will look like you boxing, or you dancing, or anything. That's why I'm so broad, because at the end of the day, I just want you to find your essence in the things that you do.
What do you mean find your essence in the things you do?
That, like, how you mentioned earlier, how we discover ourselves through experience, like we're actually discovering who we are. Well, it's like, that's what I'm saying. Find your essence in the things that you do. So if you can find like your love or your passion or a feeling of truth in you carving wood, or in you dancing, then you're gonna get a glimpse of what it feels like to be yourself. And my job is to help you expand that glimpse and extend it into everything else that you're doing, and like really looking to capture that feeling within every single second of your life. And that's when, like, you're aligned. You're connected. You're ready to just you believe in yourself. You have this strong sense of knowing that you are who you were born to be, and that and so then now it becomes a thing of like, okay, so how do I become this channel, or this mediator, or this person that aligns everything to feel like it is, like to feel connected, you know what I mean, where everything feels just right, everything just feels like, oh, okay, there's the essence again, there's spirit, there's love, there's there's passion, there's truth, and that's like us human beings have that ability.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the system we're living in is not built to get us to that place.
Are you talking about like the school system?
I mean, the entire system.
Yeah,
it's not. Yeah, because
yeah.
as you
But
said,
you know what though? We are the system. Like, we are the system. There's something that I've learned right now in my business. Like, for example, my business is a projection of myself. The system is a projection of the human beings within them. So every single person holds the system within themselves. Now, if they align themselves, then they will eventually align the system or revolutionize it.
Exactly. I mean, that's the line of thought that spirituality is following. That everybody just has to change themselves. Everybody just has to wake up. Everybody just has to become more conscious, and then the whole will change by itself, because everyone else, like all the small pieces, are changing. I mean, that's where we're going, I guess. In that sense, you're absolutely right. That we are the system.
And also, I will say that my attention onto like the matrix and like the system, the broken system that we have now, is actually, my attention is like 0% on that. And it's like straight positivity for me, but also the positivity isn't delusion, because I think that like the system I'm seeing is in my head. Like it's almost like you're able, you said you see people's potential and stuff, but for me, and I do that too, where I project, I'm like, oh, people, like, you can do so much.
You're manifesting your vision you have in your head, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You're not thinking about how it is. You have your vision, how things could be, your ideals.
Yeah.
You're working towards them, and not have your energy be taken up by how fucked up things are. I mean, you can always see the bad, but it doesn't really aid you in helping to improve with how things are. That's what you're saying, right?
Right. That's it. Yeah. You know, that's it. So
one last question I would have is because you talk so much about progression, and it just got me thinking about because you're really concerned about your growth, about your evolution and your progression, and spiritually and in different planes. And I was just wondering, I just had this thought that in a sense it can also be a bit. I'm just wondering, haven't thought about this, it can be a bit maybe arrogant. I hope you don't get it wrong. To know what exactly you need to progress, isn't it? I mean, that's just something I thought about when we were talking about progression. Because you know what I mean? That, for example, I'm also concerned with my own progression. But then I feel like if I were to just think about it and to intellectually approach it, and because the thing is, life knows best what's best for your progression, right? I mean, you can't think for yourself like what's the best for your progression. That's just something I wanted to ask. To like the idea you have of what would your progression be, or what do you need? How do you go about that? On how your progression should look like.
So I think if it could be arrogant if you prescribe progression for yourself, like if you kind of like medicine, in the sense that I guess it could be arrogant in the sense that if you're saying like this is what I need to progress, because I already progressed from this last thing, like I'm already I'm already above that, you know. I think that is arrogance right there. So, you know, I find it so hard to, you know, I used to be like, you know, oh, I'm right here, you know, like I'm an individuated being, I'm a self-actualized being. And I feel like, yeah, there's truth in that, but at the same time, there's also this truth that, like, you know, you don't really know, because there is no chart, you know, there is no, like, what are you measuring? You know, now we're measuring love. You can't measure love.
But you can feel it.
But you can feel it. Yeah.
Yourself. I mean, you can tell yourself how much loving you are.
Yeah.
And how much love you feel inside yourself.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's why, you know, I that's why I talk about, you know, capturing the essence. Like, that's a feeling. It's not a logical thing. Yeah. And so, but another thing is, like, you know, this is an interesting thing where, yeah, I think, because there are times where you intuitively know. I feel like you're like, oh, this is what I need, you know. So you
just gotta do it. Yeah, you know, I have to do this thing.
yeah. I think
oftentimes there's fear also in there, right? You just feel like, fuck, I'm so afraid of doing this, but you know deep down this is what you need to grow.
Yeah. It's I'm thinking about, this is where we get to like different levels of knowing, where I think that arrogance can only exist at the level of the mind, like logic, intelligence, and because that's kind of the ego. But intuition is a level above that, you know?
Yeah.
So like, you can, like you said, where you have that thing where I'm still afraid to do it. I think
everybody has, always.
Everybody does it.
Always something you're afraid of doing.
Yeah, but then sometimes you just get used to the fear so much that it becomes fun.
That's a great state to be in, where you're like embracing challenges. That's a different perspective. I think you have to take it on. Otherwise, you're going to become like a bitter person, because life is full of suffering and hardships and obstacles. And if you don't adapt this view of embracing it and seeing it as an opportunity to grow, you're going to be quickly, the game is going to become unfun very fast.
Yeah. You know, also something that I've felt, just recently, because I had my performance and I was going to perform in front of hundreds of people. First time I've ever done that. I was nervous as hell. Like, I was so nervous, dude. I thought I was going to puke or something. Like, I've never had it. I've never had it like that. You know, I never had it happen like that. That feeling. I had also drank the night before, and like, I'm pretty sure that has something to do with it. But still, like, I could feel that feeling. I'm like, damn, I've never, like, this is so scary, dude. I'm also really scared. And I could feel the negative spiral. I could feel myself going there. And then I was trying to figure out what is the thought pattern that I need right now to kind of like alleviate or redirect that. And the fear came from me thinking about this being the moment of my life, or this being a huge moment in my life. And
putting it in a too grand light.
Yeah.
It's most often that's the thing. Yeah. Just like when you meet women, when you're like, oh my God, this is really important. This has to work.
Yeah. Right.
And you start getting nervous because you're making it such a big thing.
Yeah. And you understand that. So then, like, I guess the thing that worked for me was just thinking about it like, well, this is just the first of many. You know, this is just like, I'm so small. I'm just so small. You know what I mean? Like the way out of the fear is just recognizing your just how small you are in this whole journey of life. So I hope that helps people out, whoever's struggling, facing a fear right now, and they know in their intuition that they gotta do it, but they're so afraid. It's like, you're still breathing. You know what I mean? You're still breathing, and this is just like another step onto this huge journey that you have, and the journey is infinite. And I think that's truth. I feel like the reason the fear dissipates is because it's truth. It's like, fear can't exist in the face of truth. And the truth is that you're an infinite being, and you're just going through the motions of this story that that you have, and you're writing.
I'm just imagining you standing there at the stage, and then you become really nervous, and then you're giving yourself this advice. I'm an infinite being.
Yeah.
Okay, this doesn't help much. Thanks, bro.
No, but you know what? It actually, well, that, like, you can say that, but you gotta actually feel it. You know what I mean? You gotta actually feel it.
That's what I'm saying. You have to be aware of those things.
Yeah, and I was still nervous, bro. I still knew it. I was like, okay, this is just a small step, and then my feelings kind of subsided. But on the way to, like, it was a long walk to the stage. I was still nervous, but then it dissipated once I saw the stage right there, and like the performers were right there in front of me, and I was the next one in line, with my teammates. And that's the interesting thing, where, like, when you're looking at it at face value, when you're actually there, it's not as big as you thought it was, right? And that's what everybody says. But I think the feeling of, I hope that helps people, that try to reframe everything as if it's just the beginning. And so, yeah, hope that helps.
Yeah, perspective is everything. It's something I've learned very early. It really is everything.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say something to you regarding the stage thing. I forgot.
Yeah, we can try to retrace. So we were talking about,
what was the last thing you said?
That you can. I hope it.
No, I got it.
Oh, you got it.
I just want to say that this is a really great moment to see how you're constructing your own reality with your minds.
Mm-hmm.
Because in your minds, being like the way you see it, the way you frame it in your own minds, determines like the emotions in your body. Because you see it as such a huge thing, which your own mind does. I feel like just a great way, because you can like feel the emotional impacts so heavily of how you see this situation, which is mind made,
right?
And the power of your mind
to flip that, the power to flip that, to be able to flip that into something else. I think I kind of learned this a little bit, kind of where your body doesn't know the difference between good or bad. It just feels. Well, in the sense that nervousness can also be seen as excitement, like the physiological response in your body is the same.
For sure,
yeah. So when you're feeling that emotion of like, I'm scared, I gotta run. Just like instead of just ignoring it or trying to put it down, maybe just say, I'm actually excited, or this is something, there's just a small step. Like, there's so much more. And that, I think that was another thing, just so much more. There's going to be so much more. So,
and you can be sure that you're going to be growing from this afterwards.
Yeah.
After
that's another thing.
This is something you can really be happy about, because exactly, because it's so tough, you're going to grow a lot from this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So,
it's extremely important. I think it's, that's what I mean, that like so many tools and ideas that I've picked up, and sometimes I don't know about you, but I don't know, like a little book where I write all those things in,
and
it's just full of so many wisdoms, but you can't have them all at once everywhere. You just forget those things. That's why I was asking this question at the beginning, because I just noticed after a while that those things that actually stick are those things that I've experienced myself, reflected on, and I've really learned out of my own experience, I've really insights I've got my meditating or whatever, like living, basically.
Yeah, just living
instead of picking them up from like some random YouTube video or some book or so. Not that I'm saying that those things don't have a value,
Right.
that you can't that they can't have a positive impact or you can't learn something from them. But just especially in our age, which is just the age of information overload,
Right.
it can be sometimes a bit, especially for people who are really curious and want to keep expanding their wisdom and their knowledge. I feel like it can be sometimes too much. That's why I've myself adopted a slower approach to things. But again, it was still inspiring to see you, I don't know, being able to handle all the information you've read upon and handling it and putting it so, I don't know, so confidently. It really seemed like you really know those things, you know, that you're putting out there in the videos. And I was very inspired, and it's quite remarkable to be able to do that. You should share a system of your system of how to best integrate those things.
That
would be an interesting video.
Yeah, I'll I mean, this is kind of, was it helpful? I do want to, because I like to think about, like, you know, me explaining how the brain works and how, you know, everything is just connection, and it's not really about, you know, like a linear expansion, but more so of a connecting. So it's all just intertwined.
Of different knots. Yeah. Something I've also noticed when I read up on something and I'm like, and I see parallels, for example, I don't know, read some Buddhist text,
right?
Then I see parallels to a book I've read. I'm like, holy shit! Then it's so much easier to remember those things.
Yeah,
and it's just so interesting. And this is the most interesting thing I find, that you read something here and then you read a book that doesn't seem to have any connection to that, but then you find some wisdom in there, like you see a parallel. That's when it gets really interesting. That's something I really love about spirituality, that you just start seeing so many parallels. You just feel like it's the best base education you can get for life, you know?
Right.
Because when you get like many of those basic concepts, I feel like they help you in so many different areas because of the parallels they are.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like, I think I just see it as myself, you know, like just adding more complexity within me. And then I'm like a tool for life, you know, like I'm a versatile tool. So I'm able to solve problems because I know all these other things, and like physics, because you know what I mean? Like, because I know a little bit about chemistry, or because I know a little bit about dance, and I just keep on connecting the dots. Something interesting, I would say, for you to check out would be complex systems.
Yeah, there are just like thousands of books I want to read.
Yeah, I took a course. But it was so random.
Well, maybe you can make a video.
I'll make a video. I'll keep talking about it
and distill it.
I think actually this tomorrow I'm thinking about talking about my vision and how, like, my vision for the future, and then talking about fractals because that's at the basis of how I see it all working out. So I'll probably talk about that tomorrow. And
what do you mean by fractals? Do you mean that every piece has everything else in it?
Yeah. Okay. That's a complex system. Fractals are a complex system. So
I was just thinking about the Mandelbrot set when you were talking about fractals.
The what? Sorry.
The Mandelbrot set.
What set? Sorry.
The Mandelbrot.
I can't.
I can write it in the chat. If you
yeah, write in the chat.
Sure, you've never.
Mandelbrot. Oh, I think I know. Is it the one with the? It has like. It
looks like a small Buddha.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think
you should know. Yeah.
If it's a fractal, it has a fractal pattern.
It is a fractal. I think it was the.
I think it was one?
Yes, exactly. I think it's the. Yeah. I don't know much about math, but I think
it was like a computer generated one, right?
And they found it.
Oh, they found it.
Yes, basically, and I think that's the equation or something like that to understand fractals mathematically, or to be able to visualize them.
Yeah. That's it. That's also a complex system. So we are a complex system.
The most complex.
The most, yeah. I mean, yeah. So that's how information is integrated so well, and that's how we can carry so much within ourselves. You know. So if you think about life in terms of fractals, then you're talking about the most efficient manner of learning.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that video.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about it tomorrow. I'm gonna be working on that today. So yeah, so we're all set. You have anything else you want to say?
No, I think it's it's been 1 hour and it's almost been 2 hours.
Yeah, it was good.
But it was really fun talking to you. and I would be glad to do it again sometime in the future. I think.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Let me see. I think I was just, if you need anything, dude, just let me know.
Yeah, I'll just
Yeah.
text you.
All right. So thank you guys for joining on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. First time I've run it down that far. So if you made it all the way, appreciate you listening. Make sure to tune in to my live streams every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific time or MST. And I'll see you guys soon. Okay. So remember, stay lucid and take care.